What is up? It's me again. I'm back, but this time I've got a cold. I can't breathe. Well, it's gonna stop me from impressions because I got a story this time. I work at the DMV, the Department of Revenue, the license office. Everyone is so mean there. Well, not the people I work with, but like the customers. They're so mean. They like yell and all this. So you can imagine how many stories I have from that. So I was telling my family a few stories the other day, and they were telling me, you need to put these on YouTube. So I was like, I'm going to put these on YouTube. So now I'm putting them on YouTube. Imagine that. A lot of interesting, crazy, sometimes smelly people come into the DMV. Okay, mostly smelly people come into the DMV. Okay, it's me. I smell. So I was working one day, and it was really dead. So I was just working. I was doing my own stuff. I was doing my own thing. I'm sitting on my computer. I'm typing, and this lady comes in, and she wants a license done. I'm like, I can do licenses. Those are simple. So I'm doing this license, right? And I gotta test your eyes. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and test your eyes if that's all right with you. I kid you not. You gotta press your forehead up against like this little pad thing, you know, and so you read the letters. So I move the thing forward. Now press your forehead up against the pad and read the top row of letters left to right. And she goes, I don't see them. I don't see the letters. I don't see the letters. So she puts her eyes back on the pad where the forehead's supposed to go because you can look through the pad. So she's just looking at the pad and she's like, I don't see the letters. I don't see them. So I'm like, Rachel, help me. And so she's like, try moving your forehead down the pad, you know? Like, try moving your head down to look. She goes from here, from right eye level to nose level. Just like that. And she goes, I still don't see him. So she's looking at the wall behind her, and she's going, I don't see the letters. And she's looking at me like I'm supposed to do something about it. So I push a button that doesn't do anything to make it look like I'm doing something. So I push the button. So then finally she goes back to our eyes, and she's still like, I don't see him. Finally, I just kind of, I just gently press her head down. She gets to it, and she can see the letters now. Oh, I see him. I see him now. All right, and she goes, you want me to read all of them? There's like 12 of them there. So she's going, you want me to read all of them? I'm like, yeah, read all of them. Read them all. And she goes, okay. N, H, all of them? I'm like, yeah, all of them. She goes, okay, they went away. I don't see him anymore. So we get her situated, and she gets back, and she goes through, and she just like rattles them all off real quick. All right, I'm like, okay, she knows letters. I'm like, okay, now list the road signs for me. So I'm like, list the road signs, and she goes, number one, the red one, it doesn't have a name. They're not supposed to have names. Like, you gotta know what they are. Like, it's not gonna tell you, oh, that's a merge sign. You're supposed to just know. So she goes back into it, okay? And she's like, yeah, number one doesn't have a name. Number two, and then she lists off the rest of them. I'm like, okay. So she knows. And then she gets to number five, and she goes, yeah, that doesn't have a name. And then she goes, and she looks at me, and she's like, yeah, it doesn't have a name. And she goes back, she goes, oh, it went away. I don't see it again. Kid you not. This is like a million times that she's done this. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay. Do you see the flashing lights? And she's like, both sides. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, now which side? She's like, left side. And she's like throwing her hands up. Just tell me what side that she sees the lights on. So then she's like, right side. And she gets it. We're almost done. You know, I put her address in. I put everything that I'm supposed to go through. And every time I ask her a question, she gives me a story. I ask her this simple question. She's like, well, I wasn't gonna. But then, well, here's what happened. And she goes on for 5 minutes. And I'm just like, she's like looking at the wall and everywhere, telling me this story. And I'm like looking back like, what am I supposed to do? So I don't know, because I'm awkward and I don't know what to do. There's a stool and a blue curtain. I'm like, have a seat in front of the blue curtain. And she stands there. I'm like, have a seat in front of the blue curtain. So finally she sits down, okay? So she sits down and I'm like, all right, there's gonna be a bright flash on 3. Go ahead and have a look at the lens on the count of 3, okay? And she goes, on the count of what?
I'm like, on the count of 3.
So finally I click capture and she blinks on 3, okay? But the thing is, I can't blame her because it doesn't give us a timer for the camera. So I have to count out. I have to guess when it's going to go off. So I say on the count of 3. So it's got this like flash that's like brighter than the sun. And I'm like, okay, all right, on the count of 3. 1, psh, okay, come around and look at it. So she comes around and she's like, oh, I'm blinking. I'm like, okay, we can retake that. And so we take it again. Finally, she gets it. She pays. I give her a temporary license. And I void out her plastic card, her card. She get, your license, because she gets a piece of paper until she gets her new one. So she folds up the piece of paper with her license, puts the old piece of plastic in to the paper, and she goes over and she starts sitting on the bench. Took 30 minutes to get this lady out of here. So finally, she takes it, and like there's a fly. I see the fly on the bench, and I see the look in her eye. Oh, I just spat. I see the look in her eye that she's gonna go for it and kill the fly. So she takes the piece of paper with the license in it. She goes to kill the fly. It misses the fly. Well, the license was loose. The license on the inside. So she's got the paper, but the license goes flying across our office. Across the room. And so I go over and pick it up for her. And she's like, oh, I would have gotten that. I'm like, I'm just going to get it for you. But after she misses and the license goes flying, she sees the fly fly off. And she goes, I think I got it. It was still flying. She didn't get the fly. And then she's like, that was the same one. It was just in my car. It was back there, then it came in here. I know it because I saw it. I saw it on the center console in my car. I don't know how this magic fly got from her car inside. Like, this is one smart fly following this lady around. She's standing there. She's got her cane. She's like talking to me more. I'm like, I can't talk right now. And she's telling me about her grandson. She starts walking out the door. She like opens the door. And she's stuck against the wall, and then, like, nudges around the wall, and then, like, goes out the door, goes to close it, opens it back up, looks at me only, and there's 4 people working. She looks at me, and she goes, I wish it were warmer. Like, I'm supposed to change the weather. What just happened? I was looking around for cameras. I'm like, I've got to be on some sort of show, because this is a legitimate story of what actually happened. That was no joke. She did that all, and I was the one to handle it. That was one of many stories of what goes on at the DMV.
So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.